Hi, welcome. Welcome to the first episode of the Mindful Awakening with MADI. Today we are talking about identity. So identity is a huge topic. It relates and correlates to all of us. The way that we perceive things through our identity, because of our identity. So it's a very important topic to talk about. So get comfy, get yourself some tea, light a candle, and yeah, let's get into it. So we'll start off with what identity means to me. So obviously identity means different things to different people. Everyone views identity different. I guess for me, identity means like how I express myself is through my identity. Identity is something that's really confusing to talk about. That's why I wanted to talk about it here today. For me, I feel as though I've lived a lot of different lives in my lifetime. So I'm only 19. I've only had 1 year out of high school. So only sort of 1 year like as an adult, like by myself, like out in the real world. So in that time of space of 19 years, I feel like I have lived a lot of different lives, because I feel like each year my identity changes with more that I learn, and the more that I experience things in my life, my identity changes over and over and over again. No two people are the same in my perception. Like, because of our identity, there's no two people that are the same. You can like the same things and enjoy doing the same things, but there's no two people that are the same because of our self-identity. And for me, how I see myself isn't through the lens of things. Like, I don't identify myself with like objects or places. Like, my identity is purely in who I am as a person and who I am to this world. And I think that it's very important to like know who you are outside of everything that you have. Like, if you stripped yourself down to the bare minimum, to nothing, like if you took everything away out of your life, if you literally wore white and your whole room was white and you did not go anywhere, who are you? Who are you without everything in your life? You know what I mean? I feel like that's like hard to explain, but like if you literally just sat with yourself and didn't have anything around you, and you were just like, you just sat by yourself, who are you? Like, who are you? Like, in here and then here, who are you? You know what I mean? And I have done a lot of self-reflection in my life. Obviously I'm 19, so I have a lot more of self-reflection to do, but identity to me means like who I am as a person, and what I reflect as a person onto this world. And obviously there's a lot of different parts to identity, and for me self-expression is a big part of my identity, as I said before. Like, as you can see visually, I'm very self-expressive, and I have a specific taste in things, and like, as I said before, there's no two people that are the same, and I'm very much like that. I very much have a very specific and particular taste in things, and from a young age, I always like had a sense of identity, you know what I mean? Like, I always, from like a really young age, I always had like a sense of self, and like had like specific taste in different things, and always like knew that I was going to like be doing something different with my life. And I can't explain why, but from a young age, I just always knew that I like was like different from other people, you know what I mean? Like, I just knew that I just had a different like view on things to other people. I've never really followed the same path as other people. I've always done what feels right to me. I've always done what makes me happy, and I've always done what is right to me, you know what I mean? Like I say this like with pure intention. Like I just grew up just going like, oh, I'm not going to do that just because you're doing it. I'm not going to like that music just because you like that music. I'm not going to like wear that just because you wear that, you know what I mean? I've always been on my own in that way, and I think that from a young age it's really good. It was really beneficial for me to be like that, because at a certain point in your life you have to sit down with yourself and go, who am I? Who am I without everything, you know? Who am I without everything that has been taught to me, you know what I mean? Because we all have a specific self-identity. We all have something that we are here for. We all have a vision for our lives, you know what I mean? And we are taught in school that we need to be like this specific person, and this like what we have to do, and like what we have to do to succeed, and all of that sort of thing. And eventually you have to strip that back and go, who am I without all of this, which can be extremely hard for some people. That some people don't know who they're meant to be, and I think that's the hardest part about school. Now we're going into our next topic, which is school identity in school. That's the hardest part about school, I think, because for me, I was at a big school, and I found it hard to I found it hard at school because I liked different things, and I didn't learn very well with someone sitting in front of 30-40 people telling us all that we have to learn this way, and we all have to do this thing, and we all have to do it this way. Because the truth is, everyone learns in different ways. Everyone has a different way of perceiving things. Everyone has a different way with like processing things and learning things, and you can't just expect 40 students to all do the same thing, you know, or learn the same way, because it's just not gonna work like that, because everyone has different styles in learning, you know what I mean? And I found it hard because of that, because I just always knew that like none of that was ever going to benefit me, and that I was on my own path. And I think once I got into like year 11 and 12, I did what I had to do to get through, and I graduated high school, surprisingly. Like I put in as much effort as I possibly could at the time, but school was extremely draining to me because I feel like my soul is very colorful. I'm very passionate about the things that I love, and I love a lot of different things. I have a lot of different hobbies, I have a lot of different inspirations, I have a lot of things that I like to do in my life. And I feel like when I was at school, all of that got stripped back continuously, because my teachers and the people around me were always trying to teach. This isn't even me specifically, but it was always trying to teach the collective to like act a certain way and be a certain way. And I don't like that, you know what I mean? I don't conform to like society's idea of identity, you know what I mean? I believe that society has this really specific look on identity with women as well, but as men, like society's just drawn up like this plan basically of what they think the normal person is, and what a successful person is, and what a woman should be to this world, and what a man should be to this world. And I don't feel like I fit into that, because I just am me and I do what I do, and I don't feel like being told what to do to be successful, you know what I mean? So identity at school is really hard, and I find now that the more that I get older, I see like family, friends, or just even people that are in high school at the moment that are starting, or like, you know, in year 8 or 9, mid-high school, they're 14, 15. I see them going through what I went through, and I see them being really expressive, creative people, and trying to conform and fit into this box, which is school, and they can't fit into it. And it's really hard watching kids go through that, because for so long I felt like I was just the odd one out always. I always felt like I was so weird and that I was so different to everyone else, and I didn't understand why I was so different. And I learned once I got older in school that like that's okay. Like it's okay to be different. You don't have to be like everyone else, because that's boring. You just do what you do. And everyone, same with everyone else, they'll do what they do. You know, being individual is so important. Doing what you want to do with your life is so fucking important. Like you have to do what you want to do with your life. Like follow your path, because you will regret it later if you just follow what everyone else is doing, or doing what you think is expected of you by your school or by your friends or by your family. Like you will regret it later. So do what you want to do. You know what I mean? That's so important, because you'll regret it in the long run if you don't. But what I was saying is, yeah, identity in school is really, really difficult. And I feel in a huge way that I was extremely lucky to I don't know, grow out of that idea that I had to fit in with everyone. Because like I said to you earlier, since I was young, I always knew that I had different views of this world from everyone else. And you know, I did go through a time in my life where like in school, where I was really confused with my identity, because I thought that I had to be like everyone else, because that's what we were all sort of being taught to do. We were taught that we have to learn this specific thing the same way as each other, and we're just thrown into the deep end, and just, you know, whoever floats wins, you know what I mean? And school is really shit like that, I think, because obviously everyone has a different experience in school. Some people loved school, and I totally respect that, but some people had a really shit time. And I did in my earlier years, because I was going through that stage of my life where, like, who am I, you know? Who am I without all of this shit? Who am I when I am doing my own thing, when I'm succeeding, when I'm doing things that I love? Who am I? You know, what person do I want to be in this world? What person do I want to be for myself? And I went through that really young. And then once I went through that, my senior years of high school were great, because once I knew who I was, like once I learnt that I'm not taking shit from anybody, because I know what I deserve and I know my worth, the senior years of high school were great, because I was around people that were good for me, because I knew what I deserved, you know what I mean? Stronger in a way, you know what I mean? Like I came out of it not tolerating anyone's bullshit, because for so long I went through primary school and high school with everyone treating me like I was like the odd one out, you know what I mean? And I went through that for a really long time. And if anything, in school taught me that not to deal with people putting me down, you know, not to deal with being pushed to the ground, because at the end of the day, I got knocked over all the time, and I just got up and I got up and I got up every single time. And I think that's really shit, that's what kids have to go through at school. You go there to learn. You should be going there for classes and to learn. You shouldn't be there having to fight for your life every day, you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to be there to fight for your identity every day. And for teachers in the school to be making you feel like you are literally nothing just because they feel like they're up here and you're down here, that is really shit, you know? That is a horrible system. And to be just thrown into that, like, so many people don't realize how broken the system is, and the education system, and expecting kids to just go in there. Like, it's such a normal thing now, and it's such a tolerated thing for kids to be bullied by other kids and to be bullied by teachers. That's such a normalized thing, and it shouldn't be normalized, because at school, you know, I always felt we were learning stuff that, like, we already knew, you know what I mean? Like, we went to school for 13 years, so from prep to year 12, so 13 years we went to school, And I felt like I was learning the same shit over and over again every year. The same stuff that I'd already learned, I was learning. And it was like, well, at this point, I'm not even like learning anything anymore. I'm just here to like do nothing now. And that's, yeah. This is a different thing, and I feel like people have different opinions on this. But for me, I love dressing wild, you know what I mean? I love dressing colorful. I have a very specific style in how I like to dress, you know? I'm very like out there with like how I express myself. And I have piercings, and I most of the time wear excessive amounts of jewelry and all that sort of thing. Like, I'm a very loud, expressive person. That's who I am, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But at school, I felt like, you know, they hated it. Teachers were told by like obviously their boss and like higher up, the government sort of thing, to like make sure kids like don't have piercings, don't wear jewelry, don't have colorful hair, don't wear these socks. Like, what the hell? That is so horrible. You're teaching kids that they literally have to be like every single other kid in that class. You know what I mean? You're literally teaching kids that if they are even a little bit different to someone else, that is not normal and it is not tolerated, and they cannot do that. What the fuck? Imagine being told that you can't have purple hair in school. Why? Why can't you have purple hair? Why is having purple hair going to change your learning? If anything, if you really want purple hair and you have purple hair, it's probably going to help you learn better, because you're not going to be constantly wanting to fight for your right to do that. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's such a weird thing to like talk about. As I said, a lot of people have opinions about it, because at school, like, I was always told to take my nose piercing out, and at the end of the day, it's not really a big deal. But a lot of people are like, you know, just take it out and you just deal with it, like, you know. But no, I got to a point where I was like, no, actually, I'm going to do what I want to do, because it's my body and it's my life, and you can't tell me what I want to do, what I want to do with that. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my mum, you're not my dad, you are just my teacher at school. You can't tell me what to do with my identity. You know what I mean? Because this is who I am. This is who I am and who I want to be, so you're not going to change that. You know what I mean? Me having a nose piercing in and having excessive jewelry all over myself is not going to change my learning. You know what I mean? I am not going to learn less with having a nose piercing in. If anything, you're wasting your time that you could be teaching me something with screaming at me about it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's really, it's a really weird thing to go through. And eventually you do like grow tough skin to it, because you're like, no, I'm just gonna do what I do anyway. Like, and people see that as like rebelling. But I was just like, I don't know, my mum and my dad have always been really sort of accepting of who I am, and I'm very grateful for that. And they've always just like told me to do what I want and be who I want and do what makes me happy. And being told that at home and then going to school every day and being told that is horrible. And I hated school because of this, you know. I loved seeing my friends every day, and it wasn't even like learning that I didn't like. I would so write like a 1,000-word essay about something random. I'd totally write that. None of that was ever an issue for me. It was feeling like I, and other students too, were being pushed and pushed and pushed out of this box that wasn't made for us, you know. And we have to be there every day and sit there every day and listen to the same shit, and the teacher saying the same shit and screaming at us about it, and screaming at us about things that make us happy as a person. And as an individual, everyone's individual. Everyone has different ways of expressing themselves. And for some people, it's not always like a physical expression. Like, not everyone expresses themselves with their clothes and with their, you know, physical identity. People express themselves in all sorts of different ways, through physicality and through like art and speech and music. Everyone expresses themselves differently, and that is where identity, you know, ties into it. So at a young age, all these kids are being taught that they have to be like everyone else, and that sucks. But eventually, well, I did, and I hope that other people do learn too. You don't have to be like what they teach us to be like in school. You don't have to go and do what makes the most money in the world. You don't have to go out and do a huge degree at university. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to do any of that, then don't. If you want to buy a van and travel the world, off you go. If you want to go be a doctor, then off you go. If you want to be a painter, off you go. Like, do what makes you happy. You know what I mean? Like, don't do something in your life just because you feel like you have to do it because everyone's like telling you to. Because you'll regret it, like I said before. You'll so regret doing something that you didn't want to do in the first place. You know what I mean? You'll so regret doing something just for the money, because at the end of the day, money doesn't buy happiness, you know? And yeah, money is helpful in this lifetime, and money does get us places, but if you're doing something that you're not into just for money, at the end of the day, that's just gonna hurt more, you know? So now we should touch on identity outside of school. So we just touched on that. I get very passionate about the things that I talk about, so you'll see that in this podcast that I'm doing. I'm going to be doing lots of different topics, so if you enjoy this one, then definitely tune into those, because I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that are very passionate to me. And obviously it's not going to interest everyone, but if you're interested, please check back in and hang out with me, because I really enjoy doing this. So yeah, next topic is identity outside of school. So yeah, we just touched on identity inside of school and what that meant for me, and how I feel from my perception, how I feel that felt to other people as well. Now, identity outside of school. So this is something that is very new to me, because I finished school a year ago now. So I'm going into my second year outside of high school on my own, you know what I mean? The first year is really hard, and I think it's different for everyone, but I think it's hard because no one tells you nothing. All those years in school never tell you what's going to happen once you go into the real world, and the truth is it's different for everyone, but you never get taught how to do certain things that are beneficial to you, you know what I mean? You never get taught like things that life skills, you know. I felt like we never really got taught life skills at school. For me, I think it was the hardest because I moved away. So I turned 18, I graduated high school, and I moved to a different state very quickly. All of this in the same amount of time. And for me, my identity like completely just fucking went out the window and changed, because I was away from everything I've ever known. I was away from my family, I was away from my friends. I've lived in the same house my whole life. I've never lived in a different house. So from what I can remember, I've never lived in a different house. So moving away from everything I've ever known to this weird place and a weird state with weird people, you know what I mean? It was crazy. And I don't regret anything. I would not change any of it. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, honestly, because it made me very, very quickly learn that my identity shouldn't be connected to all of these certain things, you know what I mean? My identity and who I am and my happiness should be tied to me only. Because if all of this went away, who am I without it, you know what I mean? And I think it just hurt because, yeah, for so long I was very comfortable in my identity with who I was at that time, you know what I mean? And as I was saying before, I feel like I've lived so many different lives in one lifetime, because every year is a different life, because you're in a different space in time, you know? You're in a different era. Like, I can't explain it, but like, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I feel like your first year out of high school, is definitely the hardest. You get through it, and for everyone it's really different, because you, like, a lot of people go off to uni, a lot of people like work, like get their first sort of full-time job, or, you know, working a lot of hours. Some people move away, some people travel. Yeah, there's a lot of different things, but for me, I moved away and I started university, and I was trying to start my own business at the same time. So I was doing all of that at the same time, and it basically felt like I was living a completely different life. Oh fuck, I just spilled that all over my foot. Basically last year I felt like I was living a completely different life. Like, I literally did not know myself for like the first half of the year. The first 6 months of the year, I was like, who am I? This isn't even me anymore. Like, I don't even like know who I am. And that really scared me for a while, because I had connected myself to all of these things back home, and like it was hard to be away from that. And as I said, I don't regret any of that. It was the best thing that happened to me, because it forced me to learn. But yeah, that was my first year out of high school. The first 6 months of that year, so the first half of that year, I was doing all of those things at once, and it was just crazy. But then the situation where I was living in Queensland, where I moved, had changed, so I came back home. So I came back to all of this, you know, I came back to everything that I had left. And the transition coming back was also very difficult, because it felt like I had taken this massive step to move away, because I took this huge step to move away from everything and completely start a new life. And then stepping back into all of this, it felt like nothing had changed. You know, everything was just where I left it. All of my friends and my family, all of my things, this town, my house, everything was still here, and everything was where I had left it. And it felt very surreal stepping back into that, you know, because it felt like I had just gone through this whole transition, this whole life change which I had, but going through like all of that felt like it was an eternity. It did not feel like 6 months, it felt like a billion years. Just to be dramatic for you. And then coming back to this, it was very surreal feeling. It was like I've just been in a fever dream, in a lucid dream for like 6 months. And when I came back home, obviously I had a lot of time in reflection to think about everything that I'd already done in that time, and what I want to do for the rest of my time, you know, because at school, I guess I just wanted to graduate so bad that I wasn't really thinking about the future. And I'm not sort of one to like overanalyze or even analyze the future, because I'm like, well, it's all just going to happen in its own way, in its own divine timing anyway, so I'm not going to like force anything and like plan anything or overanalyze it, because it's all just going to happen the way it is. So at school, I didn't really think too much about my future. I knew that I was moving away, and I knew that I wanted to sort of do stuff in fashion and lifestyle, and I knew that I wanted to sort of study here and there, and I knew that, but I did not think about what was actually going to happen once I left school. And I guess that's crazy that school doesn't teach you that, you know, even like the teachers don't even say anything about how crazy it is to go from being the student, from someone telling you what to do every day, to literally one day go, you know, the whole world's yours, off you go, like go figure it out for yourself. You know how crazy that is and how wild that feels? Like, yeah, so the first 6 months of last year, my identity out of school was completely shifted. And I think I went through something like, I feel like if I had stayed in the same situation, I wouldn't have felt as scary. I think if I had stayed at home and like I hadn't moved and like whatever, I wouldn't have felt as scary. But it did because of that. But yeah, once I came home, I had huge deep reflections about who I am as a person, and like what I want to do in this life, and what I want to be as a person in this world, you know what I mean? And it actually all just fell into place for me. So what I'm saying is, what like my advice to you is, you're gonna have so many identity shifts in this life. Like everything that you step into is going to change your identity or like change your perception of things in like a little way, you know what I mean? And what I'm saying is like, just go for it. Because yeah, that time in my life was extremely scary, and at the time I was like, what have I done? Like, I've moved away from everything I've ever known. This is the scariest thing I've ever felt. But it all comes back around, you know, and eventually it wasn't scary anymore, and I was enjoying it, and then I ended up coming back anyway. So what I'm saying is like, enjoy the things that you have before they're gone, and enjoy the things that you are doing in your life as a huge thing. And identity outside of school, like your first year, I'm telling you now, your first year is going to be hard. It's going to be hard because whether you're full-time working, or whether you're at school studying full-time, whether you're traveling, or whether you're even starting your own business like I am, it's going to be hard navigating all of that as an adult, you know. Navigating through all of that is going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. Like, I had a really tough year navigating through all of that, but I think it was probably the most beautiful year yet for my life, because I had to really figure all this shit out for myself, and it made me really, 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 really deep think about who I want to be as a person, and like who I am as a person, you know, and my identity. It made me think about that a lot. So yeah, and what I'm saying is, throughout your life, a lot of things are going to change. Every year is going to be different. Things are always going to change, but the biggest advice I have is follow your heart. You know, do what makes you happy. Follow your heart with intentions of love, of course. You know, like do what makes your soul like light on fire. You know, do what you're passionate about, because even if that thing that you're passionate about and you love so much changes in the next year, it's gonna, if you keep following the path of love, you're gonna be continuously finding new things that you love, you know what I mean? Like, you might set on the path to do this certain goal, and then you might achieve that certain goal and do that certain thing, and then go, oh, I actually don't want to do that. I actually want to do this instead. That's a great thing. Like, that is not something to be ashamed of, because at the end of the day, like, if you just follow love, it's always going to reward you, you know what I mean? If you follow like what you love and your passion, it's going to reward you. Like, even if you become extremely successful and you're extremely abundant and happy with that passion, it might still lead you to something that is better, you know, or better for you, is what I mean. You might become extremely successful at your goal, but then you also might not actually want to do that after you go through all of that hard work, you know what I mean? So my big thing is to just do what you love and follow what you love, because at the end of the day, it's going to keep leading you to things that, and leading you to the opportunities and things to experience through your life, you know. I'm going to talk about identity in relationships now. So obviously, all of this video is all about my perceptions and the way that I see things. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of my stories, because that's obviously how I see things. But identity in relationships, I guess from my age, I'm 19, so obviously I've been in relationships throughout my teenage years, but I haven't been in like a serious adult relationship yet, you know what I mean? And I think that is the reason why I haven't been in a serious adult relationship, is because I am so content in my own space. You know, I'm so happy with who I am as a person and where I am going, and I am like so like at peace with everything, and I'm extremely independent too. And getting into relationships, that's hard, because yeah, if you're like me, you're like super independent and you're super like, you know, like content in your own life. Bringing someone else into that just feels like absolute chaos. Like, bringing someone else, especially if you how do I explain this? Especially, yeah, with me being so independent, I like haven't found someone who's like that, and I feel like I need to to date someone, that person needs to have the similar attributes to me, you know, in the way that they're also very like passionate about what they do, and they're like independent, and they like being by themselves, you know, they're content in their own energy, you know what I mean? The way that I see relationships is, it's like two people that are doing their own thing, you know, that come together and they love each other, but they're also like, they're not changing each other's like lives and identity, you know what I mean? They're not becoming one person. That's how I view relationships, and that's just my perspective. Everyone is different with how they see things, but for me, I love like doing my own thing, and I love being by myself, and for me to date someone, they have to be like that too, because I don't want to like be completely encased in someone else's like life, and vice versa. Like, I don't want them to like be like a version of me, and I don't want to be a version of them. I want us to both do our own thing, and I think that's different for everyone. But like, identity in relationships can be really hard, especially with different personalities in relationships, you know. And my advice on that is just to like sort of know what you're looking for in a person, and I don't mean like physical things, you know, I mean mental things. To let someone into your life, you have to make sure that they're worthy of that, you know, and that you have to make sure that they're worthy of like your energy and your love, and that's what I mean by like, I'm so, at the moment, I'm very like driven in my goals. I'm very goal driven at the moment, and like, I'm not actively looking for any relationship. I basically have never been actively looking for a relationship or anything like that, because I don't know, I just think like it's getting really deep. But yeah, I feel like this video like is sort of all over the place, but I think that'll be the theme of my I think that's sort of what the mindful awakening is about. Like, this is very new to me. I have never done this. I am embarking on my journey through YouTube and through being a creator, and I really wanted to do this because for me, this is something I'm really passionate about, you know, talking about these things, talking about identity, mental health, self-love, self-care, talking about real human things is extremely passionate to me. It's something that I love doing, because I went through a really hard space in my early teens, and I wish that I had someone in my life that was able to sort of talk to me about it, or someone that I could even like watch or listen to that like had knowledge on it, and that's sort of what I want these videos to be about. You don't have to take anything from these videos if you don't want to. This is me just explaining like my perception of all of these things that are very normal for everyone, you know what I mean? And yeah, at the end of the day, identity just has a lot of different layers to it, and there will continuously always being different layers to identity, you know what I mean? And through every situation, there's always going to be more layers, you know, like I just said, like your first year outside of high school is so shifting for your identity, and even in high school, that is such a big shift in your identity and creating who you are. And like you think that identity is such a concrete thing, like you are who you are because of your identity, and I guess it is, like, but it's, for me personally, it's always changing. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to be the same person twice, and I'm so grateful for that. But that's for everyone too. Like, I see myself as such a chameleon, and there's so many people that are, but they don't know. Like, for me, being like a chameleon is like being able to change and shift into every situation, and to like grow and blossom into everything, you know what I mean? Not like just tie myself down to one particular situation. It's about expressing myself and learning new things in every opportunity, you know what I mean? And there's so many people that don't even like know that that's what they're like, and they're like, why am I constantly like changing? Why do I always feel like I'm a different person? Like, I miss my life, and I miss this situation, I miss this part of who I was. And I think that's just a big part of being a human too, is like looking in the past and being like, wow, like, you know, I sort of missed that time in my life. And it's so normal to like be like that, but the truth is, like, you're never gonna get certain parts of yourself back, like, because of all the change in your life and all the change in your seasons. Like, and I like I was saying, like, from, like, I'm 19 now, even that shift from starting high school, like, at 12, 13 or whatever, that's a huge shift in my life. I was not the same person when I was 12 that I am now. You know what I mean? I wasn't even the same person last year that I am now. And that is the same for you. Like, you're always going to be changing. You're always going to be shifting identity and changing into a different person. And I think that's so beautiful about being a human. Like, you always have the opportunity to change. You always have the opportunity to learn and shift into different areas and spaces in your life, you know, into different energy. And I think that's such a beautiful thing as well, being a human. Alright, that is the end of the first episode of the Mindful Awakening with Maddie. Thank you so much for watching and listening and healing with me. This is such a beautiful thing that I'm able to do, and I'm so grateful that you are here with me. If you liked this episode, definitely tune in for the next one. I have a few coming up. There'll be a new episode of the Mindful Awakening with Maddie every Wednesday, so definitely tune in and check it out. I will be talking about a lot of different topics, a lot of different things. So yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. I am so eternally grateful for you to the end of this earth. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.